All of that sounded very impressive, but I'll set you at ease by saying forget all of it. I'm just a storyteller, which is not necessarily a good thing because in Spanish, storyteller is cuentista. And you know this, as a Puerto Rican, cuentista is not necessarily, first of all, I wouldn't want to have a writer or a storyteller in the family. Cuentistas, there's a saying in Spanish, de poeta, músico y loco, todos tenemos un poco of musician, poet, and lunatic. We all have a bit, but notice it doesn't specify storytelling because storytelling is even worse than all of those. So, cuentista has a suggestion of mentirosa, embustera, tall tale. So meaning do not be impressed by whatever you heard. I'm a storyteller. And I will try not to be a Dunkin' Donuts reader today. And I will try desperately not to have everybody's eyes glaze over. So I'm not promising. I'm just saying that I'm going to try. Last night, because I've been so very busy. Last night was when I decided, time to print out whatever you're going to read. And what happened? I had no ink. I had completely run out of ink. So I will be reading, which I'm not used to reading, but I'll be reading from the laptop. But yes, as I said, I am a storyteller, and especially as a person of color, as a Latina, as a Caribbeaner, as an Afro-Latina. It's like, I'll give you an example. When I first read 100 Years of Solitude, I was actually in college. I could not sleep. And my housemate at the time handed me 100 Years of Solitude and said, read a couple of pages of this and you'll be knocked out in a minute, okay? Of course, for me, that was not the case. I finished that book in 24 hours. I stayed up all night. I used to work while going to school full time, like 3 jobs. I missed my classes the next day. I called in sick to my multiple jobs. And the reason why everybody speaks about Marquez as magic realism, etc. I read it and could not put it down because it was the first time that I had read anything that sounded remotely familiar and true. There was nothing magic to me about it. It was life. This is how life is. And it reminds me of another incident. When I was like 12 years old, I stole under my sister's library card because she didn't like reading a lot, but I did. So I needed to be able to return to the library. Under my sister's library card, I stole not 100 years, Entosaki Shange for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. Okay? Because growing up in Brooklyn, and by the way, I didn't hurt anybody because only one other person had taken that book out, and it had been like years and years before I took it. So, and I had to have it, and I had to have it because growing up in Brooklyn, I'd never read anything like Entosaki Shange. The books that were taught in school had nothing to do with me. It was the first time that I thought, not consciously, but that the idea came to my mind, well, people like us can be writers. And we can write about what we know. The people Entosaki Shange wrote about were my neighbors. I knew these people. It read familiar to me.